welcome to another edition of the House Whisperers Show on WWDB Talk 860. I'm Barry Reisman, inviting you to stay tuned for expert advice about maintaining your home from the roof to the basement, featuring professional home inspector Jack Milne. And as always, Jack has a great topic to talk about today. Jack, glad to have you back with us.
Well, thank you, Barry. It looks like we've just come off a really harsh week. I know I've been digging myself out of my office for like the past day or so, as well as home. But the good news is my son's making money with the snowplow. So
that is good news, yeah.
Yeah, one person's down is another person's up, I guess, Barry.
That's
so
for sure.
I hope everyone made it through the week okay. But, you know, today's topic, Barry, is kind of maybe I'm overly optimistic, but it's on spring cleaning. You know, let's get rid of the clutter. So, you know, as I was putting away my holiday goodies, I jumped up into my attic and started taking a look around, and I said, you know, it's not only me. So I hope today I can give everybody some good tips as to how to get prepared for when it comes time for the tulips to rise and the sun lasts a little bit longer. But before I kick in, I always want to thank my sponsors, because without them I wouldn't be on the air today. So let's start with burrow exterminating. Although there may be snow on the ground, folks, you know, those bugs look for shelter. So with spring around the corner, termites, this is their time to start to thrive. And so if you run into any situations where the property needs to be treated or even a very good contract, reach back out to Burrow Exterminating at 610-586-5640. Now, Burrow's down in Glenolden, Delaware County, but if you need some help on the termite end up here in the other counties, Bucks, Montgomery, New Jersey, then think of Pest Blaster at 215-295-5555. Now, both these companies also offer radon testing. And, you know, radon testing isn't just for buyers and sellers anymore. I think it's also for homeowners. So if you're really giving it good thought to put your kids down in the basement to get out of your hair for a while, you may want to test for radon. It only runs about $125, and I think it's well worth it to find out. Bexmont Inspections. They're the best on-site sewage evaluators around, and Rob Bowie can also help design a system in case yours is getting too old or it begins to fail. BrainFleshGear.com. I talked to Kevin about a week or so ago, and he's going to start designing the shirts for our next motorcycle journey, which is going to kick in July. So we're starting early, but that way the products get done early. And, of course, Tri-County Inspection Company. My company, been operating since 1985, served well over 70,000 clients. And yes, folks, we even do inspect in the snow. So I find that we're a little bit more dependable than the postman because I know we will show up. So 215-295-2030, Lehigh Valley, 610-346-7880, Delaware County, 610-296-2004, and for our Jersey clientele, 856-853-4224. So I do want to visit the email box. Jeff from Ben Salem sent me a nice one this past week. He goes, last week I heard your show with Jim McKissick about appraisals. I like the idea about appraising my parents' house in Doylestown before I list it for them. Listening to your show, Jack, and the explanation given by Jim, it makes sense to spend a few $100s to find out what the property is worth. My parents have lived happily there since 1985, and now they're ready to list the property. Thanks for the advice. Well, Jeff, you know, I'm going to pass this information along to Jim because we always like to hear back from our listeners. Please email me back at thehousewhispershow@gmail.com or visit thehousewhisper.com for well over 60 previous shows for great advice over numerous topics. And, of course, don't forget www.dbam.com for the podcast in case you missed me today. So, again, the motto of my show is where every house has a story. And, you know, today's topic, again, is spring cleaning, and let's get rid of the clutter. So, granted, it may not yet be spring, but, again, when you put away the holiday stuff, it does give you a chance to look around at your possessions that you've been accumulating, you know, over the past year or worse, several years. So as you shove the Christmas lights, wreaths, and bins of stuff past the old toys, skis, and car parts, and other things that are in your way, you should really give good thought as to when it was the last time that your kids really played with those old toys. When was the last time that you changed the filter to that 2000 Ford Explorer that all of a sudden you remember you actually traded in 3 years ago? So in other words, clutter accumulates before you realize how much you have. And, I always have a theory that if it hasn't been used in a year, it's out of here. And, that's a tough thing to live by, but it does tend to keep down the amount of stuff that one holds on to through the years. And last week when I had Jim McKissick on the air, I mentioned I was in Florida cleaning my mother-in-law's house of almost 2 tons of possessions that she and her recently deceased husband accumulated over 15 years. And folks, when I go to work, it's nonstop. And I picked up 2 of those big boxes of construction-grade bags from the Home Depot. They're 3 mil. They probably hold between 75 to 100 pounds worth of stuff. And believe me, when I filled it up and I tied it up, I had to waddle it out of the house and put it in the garage. Now, I figured that each of those bags weighs anywhere between 75 to 100 pounds. So this kind of gives you an idea as to what I went through over about 3 days. And, honestly, folks, it wasn't even my house. But, of course, helping my wife and helping her mom at this time, there was, I couldn't say no. So it's not an easy task to go through someone's own personal mementos and trinkets that they may have accumulated over the years. But when you have to present a home for sale, you have to turn it back into a house. And, one thing you really can't have are, the family pictures and portraits and all the nieces and nephews and cousins and uncles, the golf club buddies, the motorcycle buddies, all that have, been on the walls. And I can tell you, folks, I think I threw away about 100 vases. And I kind of joked to my mother-in-law. I said, man, you must have gotten a lot of flowers through the years because I don't know what you do with 100 vases. But every time I opened up a cabinet, there seemed to be another box. And so I ran probably 15 to 18 trips to the Salvation Army and Goodwill to help, declutter this house. And, almost each room, you have to have your parents looking over your shoulder to make sure, is this something you want or is this something that you don't want? Does it hold intrinsic value? And these are really tough decisions. But, on a tangent, I did an inspection last week or so in Warrington, and I had an older mother who was actually selling the property with her daughter on site. I told her what I went through. She goes, Jack, we just did this about 2 weeks ago, and I can't tell you how much money we found in really weird places. So, care has to be taken when you go through personal possessions because you don't know what you may find. So over 2.5 days, we decluttered this home. We turned it back into a house. And the good news is last weekend we had our first open house. So this past month, due to the exposure that I had for the first time going through this, I put a letter out to over 3,500 real estate agents, of which Tri-County works with, to let these professionals know what I went through. And it's really not for them, but it's to advise the agents that they may come across properties that are now being looked over by executors, executrixes, that are filled literally to the rafters with possessions that need to be reallocated before they can put the house up for sale. And it does take time. And truly, I really don't wish this on anyone. So you have to have frank discussions because bottom line, this is a fact of life, that as we grow older and our parents are growing older, we have to discuss it. Clutter for today's topic touches on some very sensitive issues, but at the end of the day, again, it affects all of us. So clutter is by definition, and please don't hold me to this, but my interpretation is stuff you put away for a later date and time and really don't want to revisit it. So in other words, put it in a closet, put it way back in the kitchen cabinet or the deepest bowels of the attic or crawl space. So Barry, why don't we break for a commercial? But when I come back, I'm going to give some ideas to help you through this maelstrom.
We'll do that. By the way, you must have seen my basement, Jack. Sounds like you were down there. Because,
oh, boy.
It's a never-ending battle. Every time I clean it out and take things and throw them away, more junk ends up down there. I think that I need to bring you over here and just throw everything away.
Well, I'll have to have you meet my father-in-law because he is the same way.
Yeah, my basement is the worst thing that ever happened to me. We'll take that break and we'll come back. More about clutter and cleaning and all the other stuff with Jack Milne right after this.
Boro Exterminating has been specializing in wood-destroying insect inspection and control for over 40 years, serving Philadelphia and the surrounding counties. All inspectors are state certified and ensure providing their clients with professional inspections and treatments. Boro not only performs conventional termite treatments, but also handles special services like historic buildings and homes with wells, creeks, or ponds. The client is assured that all treatments will be performed safely when you hire Boro to do the work. They also provide radon testing in their service area. Boro's full-time office staff is available to help you schedule an appointment. Just call 610-586-5640 or send an email request to boroinspects@verizon.net. That's 610-586-5640 or email at boroinspects@verizon.net.
Specially created t-shirts by BrainFlushGear.com offer the extreme sports enthusiast an opportunity to have a clothing line available that suits their sport. BrainFlushGear.com understands that when we get the moment where we can jump on our motorcycles, wave runners, surfboards, snowmobiles, or skateboards, it can be priceless. They offer custom artwork including silk screening, transfers, and embroidery. Speak to one of their consultants today and they'll help you create your own Brain Flush. Visit BrainFlushGear.com or email them at contact@BrainFlushGear.com.
For your septic inspection and testing needs, please consider Bucksmont Inspections. They've been serving the Bucks and Montgomery County areas for over 15 years. As members of the Pennsylvania Septic Management Association, the Pennsylvania Association of Sewage Enforcement Officers, and the Pennsylvania Association for Professional Soil Scientists, Bucksmont Inspections can inspect your existing septic system or test for your new septic system placement. Please call Rob Bowie at 215-669-4213 and say you heard their ad on the House Whisperers show.
As the weather gets cooler and the temperatures drop, the bugs might slow down, but the rodents don't stop. Mice and rats begin to invade homes during the fall and winter months, looking for food, warmth, and a comfortable place to nest. Don't wait for pesky rodents to invade your home. Fight back. Have your home baited and ready for their attack with Pest Blaster. Whether preventative or a full-blown infestation, give Pest Blaster a call at 215-295-5555 and they can discuss the solution to your problem. They also offer humane animal removal services for a wide variety of wild animals, damage repairs, and cleanups. Call them today at 215-295-5555 or check them out at pestblaster.com, servicing both New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Pest Blaster, 215-295-5555 or pestblaster.com for all your pest control needs.
Tri-County Inspection Company has been providing professional home inspections, commercial inspections, and historic property evaluations for over 25 years. Tri-County Inspection Company covers 13 counties, serving both New Jersey and Pennsylvania. They've performed inspections for over 70,000 clients and are members of the American Society of Home Inspectors, as well as the Pennsylvania Home Inspectors Coalition. They are licensed in both Philadelphia and New Jersey. For all of your real estate transactions, transactions, call Tri-County Inspections at 215-295-2030. For their New Jersey clientele, call 856-853-4224. In PA, call 215-295-2030. In New Jersey, 856-853-4224.
And we are back with Jack Milne, the House Whisperer, talking about a topic that is near and dear to me and a lot of other people. And let's all pay very close attention, because today Jack is talking about clutter and spring cleaning and getting rid of the stuff. I don't know if I want to call it junk. I'll say stuff. Jack, time to get back to you.
Well, thank you, Barry. Yeah, stuff I think is a gentle word. I think clutter kind of paints an image like, oh my God, what do I have in front of me? And I had this discussion when I got home, with my other father-in-law, and I know I've got to. My mother-in-law had remarried, but I've been to his basement, Barry, and it seems like he just stuffs everything to the top of the joist, and you have this almost distinct way of having to walk around the basement. And, I guess like any other guy, he probably knows where it is if he looked hard enough. I said, Pop, when that day comes, what are we going to do with you? And he goes, honestly, Jack, all I want you to do is call like one of these 800 junks or, these folks that go in and clean out homes. I said, well, Pop, do me a favor. Do it before you get too old. That way, I don't have to make the phone call. I don't have to travel the 90 miles to go up there and orchestrate the removal of your clutter. And I started doing this with my mom's house probably about 2 years ago. And I said, Mom, what's in your attic? She goes, I don't know. And I said, well, if you don't know, then it's not important, right? And she goes, well, why don't you go up and take a look and see if there's anything you need? And to me, that was like an open door. So as I started bringing things down, I let them have the decision, hold or not hold. And to me, folks, if it's halfway out of the attic steps, I'm going to give strong persuasion to keep it going right out the door. And it can start slow, and it can start methodical, but I do find that once you start, it's not bad. I have a very good friend whose mom has passed on. His father moved into an over 55 community, and now this friend and his brothers and wives are going through this house that, his parents have lived there for 40 years. And folks, they're on their fourth month of going through this house. Now, again, I did a 3,200 square foot house in 2.5 days. It does take time, and again, you have to be careful. But as I told my friend, I said, listen, if the siblings are helping out, there might be things that the siblings may want to hold on to as mementos before it makes its way into a trash bin. But at the same time, keep in mind that not everything has to go into the trash bin. Please think of donations. I taught my kids really early with their old toys, that were in good shape, to donate to the women's shelters. I think that's a great place. And, when you load up the car and you've got that 6-year-old, 7-year-old, or even 10 or 13-year-old child with you, and they haven't played with this or that or the trucks for a number of years, and you can put them and donate them to young children who haven't had that opportunity to have a Tonka toy or a Barbie doll. The mothers are just clinging to you, saying thank you very much, and the kids it's like Christmas in July. So it's an extremely good feeling that you're giving these mothers and their children, and it really teaches your own children how to give back. Think about donating, because there's a lot of heart to that, and it makes you feel good. But for those other possessions, when you start to declutter a home, especially for sale, I think of older folks who tend to over accumulate furniture in their rooms. So again, you're stuck to certain ways that you have to walk through a house. So we donated probably 15 to 18 trips in Florida to both Goodwill and Salvation Army. And keep in mind, folks, it's a tax write-off. So you're going to get a receipt, and you can't go crazy, but you can be realistic as to what these are worth. And today, as you all know, with taxes, there's not too many things you can write off anymore, but you can definitely write off donations. So think of clothing, think of computers, TVs, fishing rods. I mean, I can't tell you what I donated over when I was down in Florida. Unfortunately, I rented a larger car so I could put more stuff into it. But basically, again, about 15 to 18 trips to those folks. I like AmVets, Purple Heart. These folks will actually come and pick up, the larger items. So if you're thinking of bedroom sets, sofas, first-generation flat-screen TVs that must weigh 400 pounds, they're more than willing to come to your home and to help you out. But you almost have to kind of stand guard and lead these gentlemen and ladies to the items that you want to go ahead and donate. But, boy, they're still trying to make it easy for you and for them. Then this way, as they get back to their store or their warehouses, then they can unload their trucks and be systematic for that. So Goodwill was more than willing to come to my mother-in-law's house and to help me out. But at that time, I was, again, in blitzkrieg mode where I just had to work through. The other thing to consider is having neighbors come by. And when I was cleaning out the garage, I had some help with one of the elder gentlemen of the neighborhood, and I said, Jimmy, anything you want in this garage, please take. I said, leave the golf cart, leave the golf clubs, but if you need that floor jack over there, or boom, 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 the rakes, I don't care. Take it. It's one less trip that I have to take. And you know what, folks? Before you know it, I had 6 gentlemen at the house going through the garage, which at the end result helped me. So I'm not a big fan of garage sales and those Saturday things because people seem to, don't know if I can use a 5-letter word over the air, but probably complain. Here we go, Barrett. About nickels and dimes. I don't have time for that. So again, if it's easy enough to get it outside the attic, out of the crawl space, into the garage, and into your car, again, please donate it to those folks who can use it. For my mother's house in Florida, she has a shoebox condo. I did have the area professionally cleaned out, and I did ask for receipts. This way I could give the receipt to my mother and my stepdad, and they could use it for tax write-off. So you don't always have to be present when this work is done. But I think boots on the ground and assisting will only make things better. So with that, if you have your siblings, try to organize a weekend because the more boots on the ground makes your life a lot easier. Keep it organized. Put the bedroom stuff over there. Put the closet clothing over here. Shoes, please collect. Kitchen appliances, meaning the mixers and the blenders and those things that have been stuffed in the way back. Go ahead and gather. For my mom's condo, I said, listen, keep 6 of everything. Because in this way, if we have 6 plates and 6 forks and 6 knives and frying pans and things like that, then if someone buys the unit, they don't have to go out immediately and buy your everyday possessions. And we gave that a lot of thought for my mother-in-law's house as well. So decluttering and removing completely are 2 different matters. But make sure that if and when you go to list that house, that there's no clothing in the drawers, especially if you plan to leave furniture. Because believe it or not, people are going to open up the cabinets, going to open up the drawers if they see things that are organized. At that time, it's going to offer a better light as to the condition of that home when it was listed. And I made that mistake in Pompano for my mother. I thought everything was cleaned out until I had boots on the ground 2 weeks ago and realized that the house was immaculate, but a lot of their older clothing was still in the drawers. So I made arrangements to get the clothing removed and donated. If you live a distance away, don't always think that what you have planned really comes to fruition. Because it happened to me. And I think I'm one of the best organized people out there, but when you count on other people to assist you, make sure that what you had asked for has been verified by a second party. So if it's the realtor, do me a favor, go in and just make sure the cabinets are clean, that everything is organized. Think about that appraisal. I think Jim and I had some great topics last week, and you really have to give that some thought if you're dealing with older parents. Get a clue as to what that house is worth before you sign on with a realtor. And the other thing I've learned through this last trip, too, is that if you sell the house to a friend of your parents, make sure that you negotiate a lower or lesser percentage from the realtor. Because if you're hiring the realtor just to do the paperwork, I've seen percentages anywhere between 2 and 3%. By the way, next week I'm going to have Glenn Aust on. He's my electrician.
Oh, that's going to be a good show. I can't wait.
I'd say a year or so ago, we actually talked about generators. And so now that they're out there, we're going to talk about generator maintenance, but we're also going to talk about those newfangled light bulbs. So listen in next week on the House Whisperer. And like every other Sunday, I'd like to say, please spend time with friends and family. And we'll see you next week.
All right, and don't forget to tune in next week, as Jack said, for another edition of the House Whisperer Show with professional home inspector Jack Milne. Hope you were paying attention to Jack Milne today, because he sure did have good advice, as he always does. To listen to previous programs, or if you have any questions, visit thehousewhisperershow.com. I'm Barry Reisman. Thanks for listening to WWDB. La, 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 la.